welcome to the last Young Actuaries World Cup quarterfinal, now for Oceania, for the Oceanian continental zone. It's, well, now it's moving. Just as a little reminder, what have we done so far? Where are we standing? What's next? You can see here the competition format of the Young Actuaries World Cup Bridge to Tomorrow. We had a strong qualification round with a lot of submissions that finished by end of last year. Selected the quarterfinalists out of this group in the 6 regions: Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America, and Oceania. The first 5 quarterfinals, as I said, took place. We are now the last quarterfinal, and the winner from those quarterfinals will then enter the semifinals in February, and the winner of the semifinals then, with a great prize, go to Australia. So we will have 4 finalists going to Australia, to Sydney, for free. I think for today's participants, it will not be that far to go to Sydney, but for some others, they will have a pretty long way then to join the World Congress. What can you expect from today? Introduction of the judges and me, I have to say, so that you know why I'm the host of today. Afterwards, introducing today's quarterfinalists, and then the actual presentation part will take place. So each quarterfinalist will show his or her video, and then afterwards the judges have 2 minutes each to ask a question, 1 question each, and then the participants have 2 minutes each to answer these questions. Once this is done, the judges will move to a separate meeting. We'll have the actual, we'll make the actual decision, and then hopefully come back to us with a winner, as well as the second winner. The winner directly goes to the semifinal, and the second winner has the chance to grab one of the wildcards to enter the semifinal as well. So, who am I? My name is Martin Neumans. I'm a member of the German Actuary Association and also the lead manager for ActiveView. That's why I'm hosting this meeting, because actually the Oceania ambassador is also the chair of the organizing committee of the ICA. So surely quite busy at the moment. That's why I took over, and happy to host this meeting. And with me here as judges, we have Masaki Yoshimura from the Institute of Actuaries of Japan, past president of the IAA as well. We have Laonri Ibidapo. He's an SOA member and council member of the Nigerian Actuarial Society, and Charles Cowling, Institute and Faculty of Actuaries and incoming president of the IAA. So surely well-qualified judges, and yeah, they will make the decision at the end. It's called Oceania final, but it's actually an all-Australian final. Even though not everyone is working in Australia or originally started in Australia, all of them are members or will become members of the Australian Institute. And with us here today and the participant of this quarterfinal are Chitsicho Dengura. As I said, he's coming from Zimbabwe, lives now in Sydney, works at Macquarie University, as well as Penelope Drastic, comes from Australia, works now in the UK. Next is Sissy Zhang, also I think comes from Australia, works now in the UK. And finally, Yi Ding, comes from Australia, works in Australia. That's at least what I noted here. And yeah, may I ask you to turn on your cameras? The judges, please turn off your cameras. And then we can basically directly start with the first participant. The order is, as you can see here. So Chitito will go first, then Penelope, Sissy, and Yi. I play the video first, and then afterwards it's time for the question by the judges. So good luck to all of you.
Hi guys, my name is Chitizo and I'm going to be making a presentation on how we can use the KNN module for underwriting in insurance. We are going to be using the K-nearest neighbor, which is a machine learning module to predict whether future potential customers for a life insurance company should be offered policy cover or not. So what is the KNN module? The KNN algorithm is a supervised machine learning module. That means it predicts a target variable using one or more multiple independent variables. The KNN module is non-parametric in nature and it does not make any assumptions on the underlying data distribution. Why is this important? This is important because in insurance, it is usually difficult to determine the best distribution that fits a particular data set. So the KNN module stores all the data and classifies a new data point based on similarity. This is a rather unorthodox example I used. Assume I train the following data on my model. We can be able to predict future input values using the already stored data. On the left-hand side is my input, and it is the shadow of a footballer. If I input it into the model, I get the output on the right. This is because the input has got a lot of similarities to the image on the right. This is a classic example for k is equals to 5, where k is the number of neighbors. Suppose we've got a new data point and it either belongs to category A or category B. After applying the KNN module, we find that the new data point is assigned to category 1. Why is that? This is because the new data point has got a lot of similarities to its closest neighbors, which are in category 1. Life insurance firms and other insurance firms are careful in deciding whom to offer their insurance products to. Hence, there is need for underwriting to determine whether a potential policyholder can be given a policy or not. There are substandard lives with higher than normal mortality rates, and this is because they are involved in risky activities such as skydiving, or they tend to consume a lot of unhealthy food. Life insurance firms are likely not to dish out insurance policies to such lives as they carry a huge risk. So what next for us? Given the life insurance firms' past data on individuals who have been given insurance policies and those who have been denied, can we be able to predict if someone is going to be offered an insurance policy or not? So we are going to be predicting whether the potential customer is given policy cover or not using the KNN module trained on a health insurance firm's dataset. For this presentation, I used Python programming language and Jupyter Notebook, which is a web-based interactive coding platform. So this is a quick snippet of our dataset, and we have got 8 columns: age, sex, body mass index, children, smoker, region, salary, and whether a person is insured or not. I split my data into the training data and testing data, and I use the train test split function in Python. As we can see, the training data has got 7 features. After running the following lines of code and fitting my model on the training data, I can see that the testing accuracy is 80%, and this is quite good, although we would prefer if our model had an accuracy of 90% and above. We can find the best k value by looping over 20 values. And as you can see from the graph, the highest accuracy is achieved when K equals to 9. So here is the interesting part. Suppose I'm given the following data and we want to know if this person should be offered insurance cover or not. We can predict the new input data by inputting it into our model. Therefore, we run the following line of code, knn.predict, and we input the values. We can see that the output is 1. What does it mean? It means that this person should be given an insurance health policy. This is because 1 stands for a person is given insurance cover, while 0 stands for a person is denied insurance cover. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. As you can see, the KNN model is a good classification model for classifying new input data using past known data. And also it is important to note that it takes on discrete values as its dependent variable. Hence, in this example, our output variable or dependent variable was the insured column and it took values of 1 or 0. However, the independent variables, which are the input features into our model, they can be either categorical or continuous, but our output variable is supposed to be discrete. It can be binary, assuming 2 values, or it can be multi. Thank you so much for listening.
So thank you very much for the presentation, Shizitsu. You have turned on your camera. Judges, please turn on your camera as well. So we come now to the questions. By alphabet, Charles, would you go first with your question?
Thank you, Shizitsu. Very interesting. What are the social consequences of such detailed underwriting?
Thank you for your question. I believe the model is too difficult to understand for an average user, and maybe it might be expensive for people because they need insurance agents to help them predict or interpret the model. So I think it might be expensive for society, and also the model might be misinterpreted by someone, an average user who is not too familiar with the technical terms, and this can have severe consequences. For example, making a wrong buy or not decision. So that's what I believe can be the social consequences of such a detailed underwriting. Nevertheless, there are positives as well. The detailed underwriting helps people make informed decisions, and this can also help reduce cost associated with poor decisions and can save money and time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laundry, your question, please.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is more on the outputs. As it is, it's either a 0 or a 1. Either you can be insured or you're not, we can insure you. Is there a way we can extend the model to give us something in between, like, yeah, we can insure you, but at a particular loading, say something like that?
Pardon, the last part of the question.
So the results, like your results give either we can insure you or we cannot insure you, yes. Right? So is there any way we can make the model to give something like, yes, we can insure you, but at a particular increased rate or something like that? Do you understand the question?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. I believe there's room for improvement on the model. I believe we can also use neural networks. Neural networks might give maybe better accuracy than the KNN model, because for the KNN model, you can see the accuracy is around 80%, which is good, but would expect our model to be maybe 90% and above. But I believe we can also put more options rather than maybe reject or accept a person in giving them a health insurance policy. So I believe I can use more better and complex modules such as neural networks, because neural networks try to understand the underlying relationship between variables. So by using modules such as neural networks, I believe I can make a even better module than the KNN module, and I can also add more final decisions, such as accept a request for a policy, but at an increased rate. So that's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Masaki.
Okay. Chichizo, thank you for your presentation about the use of machine learning KNN model to predict insurability of potential policyholders. I think it would become a useful tool for an insurance business with ample past data or many past data and a standardized underwriting method of admitted and refused policies. However, it might be difficult to use this method when the insurance business is relatively new or underwriting method is changing. Do you have any idea to cope with such a situation?
Thank you for the question. For the new insurance firms, I believe it will be difficult to use data because they do not have past data in order to apply to the model. But I think from the past data in the industry, a firm can find competitors or past data from a similar industry and try to use it for their own predictive analysis. And also in the event of changes in underwriting methods, I believe the system can be adjusted to cope with improved underwriting methods. So yeah, in short, I think we can take data from a similar industry, a firm in a similar industry, because a new firm doesn't have a lot of past data, it's just launching. So taking data from a similar firm in the same industry might help in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well done, Chichizu. Now you can relax and we can go over to the next participant. No, like that. So it's Penelope Drastic. Now it's your turn, but I play the video first, of course.
When was the last time that your team discussed ESG? If you chose the final option, you're not alone. A shocking 70% of insurers feel that they haven't yet fully considered their company's ESG commitments and disclosures. Research by law firm DWF shows that 65% of insurers surveyed believe that poor ESG performance has had a substantial negative impact on their company, and 55% have experienced increased stakeholder pressure on ESG matters. The insurance industry has fallen behind other sectors, and the combination of weak ESG scores and failure to meet stakeholder expectations means that a crisis is looming. A key building block in our bridge to tomorrow will be demonstrating that actuaries are searching for a proactive and innovative solution. ESG factors describe the ways a company interacts with the environment, people, and the regulatory structures under which it operates. But in today's rapidly evolving corporate world, that won't be enough. My proposed bridge to tomorrow is the addition of a new category to the ESG framework, which represents one of the biggest shifts in modern business, the way we interact with data. The current ESG framework addresses data security and privacy through the governance category by asking whether the company complies with GDPR and similar regulation. But as businesses become increasingly data-driven, we will need to start asking about and reporting on questions of data ethics in machine learning, data quality, which underpins all the analysis and modeling that we do, and whether businesses are communicating data-driven decisions to stakeholders in accessible and transparent ways. While improving our reporting on existing ESG factors is a vital part of the solution to the ESG crisis in insurance, expanding our coverage to include data-related factors will show stakeholders that the actuarial profession is committed to maintaining a relevant and forward-looking framework for assessing ESG risks and impacts. So, what would data reporting actually cover? I've got 4 main topics to start us off: data quality, data transparency or accessibility, data interpretability, and data ethics or fairness. The 2 main concerns for companies here would be defining reporting metrics that allow meaningful comparisons between companies, and defining metrics that enable reporting to be useful without divulging commercially sensitive information. Let's start with data quality. This covers basics such as the prevalence of missing values or inconsistencies in datasets, but can be expanded to include questions like, what proportion of the company's datasets have accurate, well-maintained data dictionaries or documentation? Is the company using data which is relevant and up-to-date? Is there an established methodology for data collection, entry, and validation? A study by Munich Re found that 56% of potential life or health insurance customers felt unable to accurately answer complex medical questions, indicating huge potential for errors in that data. Can insurers identify ways that they respond to this uncertainty in their use of data? Now onto the topic of interpretability. With the rise of machine learning in insurance and finance, the use of increasingly complex models, and so-called black boxes, has posed the question of how models obtain the output that they give. As an example, in the past, underwriting rules looked something like this. Today, insurers are exploring the use of machine learning models for underwriting. Decision trees and related models such as random forests look very similar to manual underwriting in their simplest forms. But as the models become more complex, it's difficult to visualize and explain them. If it's not possible to explain exactly how a model has arrived at its conclusion, then it's hard to decide if the method that it used was actually fair. For example, since the introduction of gender-neutral pricing regulation, insurers have been unable to use gender as an input into pricing models. However, a black box machine learning model may use a combination of other variables as a proxy for gender, defying the spirit of the legislation without anyone knowing that it has occurred. Interpretability problems can also occur when a model gives output which defies common sense and internal consistency. For example, if a customer is quoted a lower premium for a policy with a 15-year term than a 10-year term. Reporting on fairness and interpretability could include answering questions about the sense checks a company has in place for the output of its models, whether the company has made efforts to identify societal biases in training data and potentially unfair features in its pricing models, and whether the company can provide adequate explanation of the pricing decisions that it would make on a given sample of people. The Python package FairLearn is an example of an attempt to quantify fairness in machine learning. Given a model and a list of groups of people, such as women, ethnic minorities, or groupings based on income, it can calculate metrics to assess fairness-related harms, such as the model's accuracy for each group. A model may be considered unfair if some of the groups score significantly worse than others, especially if those groups are already underprivileged in society. This type of analysis could be included in the ESG report. Interpretability is also closely connected to transparency. If a suitable explanation for a model's output is found, is that communicated to customers? A recent study by the Association of British Insurers explored customer perceptions of insurance pricing and how data is used to calculate premiums. The results indicated that an alarming 70% of customers believed their gender was used in pricing, a practice now forbidden by EU regulation, and that none of the study participants were aware of the existence of cross-subsidy in the insurance sector, indicating fundamental gaps in consumers' understanding of insurance pricing. While sharing a detailed breakdown of their quoted premium with a customer would help resolve this confusion, companies would be unlikely to adopt such a solution for fear of giving away too much information to competitors. So it's not likely to occur without regulatory pressures. Insurers could instead consider sharing a list of the most important variables used in pricing, or simply a few of the variables with the highest impact on premium. For now, reporting here may be a yes-no question on whether the company is doing anything to make pricing more transparent to stakeholders, or a metric representing results of a survey investigating stakeholders' understanding of the pricing process. Hopefully, tomorrow's insurers will prioritize data transparency solutions and be able to make more detailed contributions to this aspect of reporting. It's clear that tomorrow's actuaries will need to commit to a stronger focus on ESG. Today's actuaries can start building the bridge to tomorrow by rethinking the ESG framework to reflect the emerging risks that a company's use of data poses for stakeholders, pushing for the development of benchmarks and standards for reporting on data, and starting a conversation about data as part of ESG reporting in their own workplaces. So let's get that conversation going right now. Comment below. At present, is ESG a regular discussion topic for your team? And in the future, what data-related reporting would you be most interested in seeing?
So thank you for that, Penelope. Judges, this time, Lonry, you go first.
Thank you. I was hoping I was going to go last. Yeah. But...
I'm sorry.
All right. So thank you so much, Penelope, for the presentation. Just a bit of clarity for me. I see your idea is that we should have additional data, at least regulations or something like that, in addition to ESG. So the question is, I don't know if you're familiar with the actuarial standards in terms of data and stuff like that. So what improvement do you think this will make on the current standards, which speak specifically to data? I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about.
I understand your question. So what I'm proposing is not necessarily a change to regulation or the introduction of additional regulation. At least in the first stage of implementation, I would see this kind of reporting as being voluntary. So part of the reason for that is what we're asking for here is quite wide and expansive, covers a lot of topics, and it would be difficult to immediately introduce regulation that meets all of those needs and that companies would be prepared to report on with the current resources that they have available. So instead, if companies are just able to report on a voluntary basis, that would firstly give them the opportunity to do what they're capable of in terms of data collection and reporting, and also give them an opportunity to show that ESG is in fact a priority for them, and to show that this kind of non-financial reporting is something which is key to their business strategy and key to progressing their business. So I don't necessarily think that regulation is the correct way to go about this. However, I think that if we did choose to go down that pathway, the key improvement that this would make over the current standards is that it would introduce a lot more information to stakeholders who otherwise wouldn't have any sort of access to it. So, for example, I don't believe companies currently report on transparency in any kind of meaningful way because of a fear of divulging commercially sensitive information. So if some regulation was introduced to encourage that kind of behavior from companies, even though it is somewhat against their interests, then that would benefit both consumers, regulators, other companies, and the industry in general. So regulation should be used as a tool to put pressure on companies to do the kind of reporting that they might not want to voluntarily. But in the first stages, I think that this kind of project should be done on an entirely voluntary basis, just to give people the opportunity to start the conversation in the way which they feel most comfortable. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you too. Masaki?
Yeah, Penelope, thank you for your interesting presentation. I perfectly agree that actuaries need to commit a stronger focus on ESG and data. On the other hand, I've been thinking that governance of the ESG already covers risk governance and the data governance for the insurance industry. So my question is, what is the reason or motive that you suggest adding data specifically to ESG?
So you're quite right, we already are covered in terms of data governance and security via regulations such as GDPR. What I'm proposing that we do to extend the current ESG reporting is mostly in terms of things like interpretability and transparency and data ethics, which I don't think are covered in any kind of consistent or inclusive manner in the current reporting standards. So I think that one of the improvements that we could make in terms of data reporting is in categories which are currently not standardized across companies or standardized throughout the industry. So lots of companies do data quality checks internally on their data warehouses or other data storage solutions, and that would remain almost entirely within a data engineering or data solutions team. What I think that actuaries can add to that is communicating that type of information to a broader range of stakeholders, and also in communicating that information in a way which, one, relates to quantifying the financial aspects of those risks, and two, relates those risks back to other parts of the business. So, for example, if there is a data quality issue where we're missing some values in a data warehouse, what kind of an impact would this have on our pricing or our income calculations? So can we give a confidence interval of what we think income would be for a certain period based on the risks of missing data in the data warehouse? So at the moment, we would report on missing data, perhaps internally, and we would report on income and other financial values in various accounting reporting standards that are currently applied. But I don't think there's any kind of a combination that applies the data quality concerns to the financial reporting standards. So I think that the combination of the two is where this idea really gets its power from. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles?
Thank you, Penelope. Very interesting. You mentioned that transparency might not be very attractive to companies because it would impact on their competitive advantage. Do you see problems, and have you got any solutions for whether that might, a greater transparency might stifle innovation within the insurance market and actually stop the generating of new socially useful insurances? And could we manage that somehow?
Yes, so I'd first like to pick up on the concept of socially useful insurance. I know that inclusive insurance is a really popular topic at the moment, and one which all insurers should be looking at incorporating into their products. In my opinion, there's been too much of a focus on affordability and not enough of a focus on accessibility, or making products which are available to people who are not particularly financially literate. So part of including transparency in ESG reporting would be to encourage companies to look at that accessibility aspect of the products that they're making, and perhaps compare with other companies how the products that they're offering could be received by consumers, and whether they're using similar strategies to other companies in the way that they're pricing. So I think that being able to share that type of information would enable companies to make more inclusive pricing strategies and would help develop social innovation. On the other hand, I do see a danger in companies looking at other insurers which may be more financially successful and trying to copy their pricing strategy at risk of stifling their own innovation and their own pathway towards developing new insurance products. So that could be a bit of a lazy solution for some companies. But on the other hand, if all companies just copied each other based on the terms of reporting, then there would just be no reason to have different insurance companies. So companies would still be trying to innovate by developing new aspects of their products and by developing more differences between themselves and other insurers. So in addition, I don't think the transparency would need to be fully divulging their pricing strategy. So even if some aspects are shared with the wider community of stakeholders, I don't think that would necessarily be enough for insurers to completely copy each other. So there'll still be differences in the products that are offered, and there'll still be some degree of product differentiation occur. So I think that this type of reporting can stifle innovation, but on the other hand, can lead to new types of innovation in ways that are socially important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Penelope. You're done as well now, and we go over to Cici. Cici, now your video.
Mr. Vader, I'm from Imperial Insurance. I'm here to do your medical examination so that we can process your life insurance application.
Oh, right. Okay then.
First question, do you have any respiratory illnesses?
I have mild asthma.
And what is your occupation?
personal assistant to an evil galactic emperor. It's mostly paperwork.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed do you feel at work?
17,000.
Thanks, Mr. Vadar. By the way, as part of our supportive life insurance product, you get unlimited mental health and physio sessions. The mental health sessions might help you manage your stress at work. We also offer a Zumba class every Tuesday. Do you have any questions?
Yes. What time is the Zumba class?
Thanks for doing target practice with me. No worries, Luke, but I need to bring something up. We have renewed all our starfighters with a telematics insurer. Premiums are set according to the behavior and safety of our pilots. Your premiums are through the roof. The reports show that you speed recklessly, brake too late around corners, and take long-distance trips to Dagobah. Well, that's part of my job. I'm sorry, Luke, but you are a menace in the skies. I have to suspend your pilot's license. You don't want to suspend my pilot's license. I don't want to suspend your pilot's license. You will bring me an iced latte. I will bring you an iced latte.
Firstly, how do we develop a product that contributes to a better society? We work through the product development life cycle. And in this cycle, I want to concentrate on a specific element, the business case, because this is a vital component that can make or break a new product. There are a lot of quantifications that go into the business case, calculating the expense savings, improved persistency, and so on. These are all elements that actuaries are trained to do. But how about quantifying the intangible elements? These important elements are often missed because they are difficult to calculate. We can calculate social impacts through actuarial assumptions. Example, improvements in claims ratios can be used to estimate deaths and injuries prevented, which then allows us to calculate savings to the public health system. Social impacts are a powerful message to put into a business case, as it supports the overall company and brand positioning. So how can we then calculate the brand benefits? Consumers are making more decisions based on a company's social responsibilities. One of the best quantifiable methods of measuring a brand is the Net Promoter Score. This is usually done in a survey with a question like, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? We then take the percentage of supporters and minus the percentage of detractors. So we know that the Net Promoter Score should increase as a company does more to be socially responsible. If we perform a Net Promoter survey, then split the results into customers with and without telematics, for example, and then adjust for differing demographic mix and outliers, we can compare the impact of the product variations. London School of Economics found that 7 points increase in the Net Promoter Score correlates with a 1% growth in revenue. We can now put a dollar amount on socially responsible products. However, factors like price could also be contributing to these results, and we need to separate these out. Customer surveys are a great way to do this. Example, ask customers to rank the top reasons why they chose the product. We can then separate out the components and find the proportion of profit growth attributed to the brand's social impact. Another way of quantifying the brand impact is through A/B testing. This is when we advertise two similar messages with one single differing variable. The engagement of the two messages can help us quantify the impact of this variable, which in this case is environmental responsibility. The Net Promoter Score and A/B testing methods are based on techniques in marketing. Actuaries should work with other teams like marketing to leverage their tools and techniques. Employees are becoming more likely to leave if a company is not doing enough to address environmental issues. There are significant costs of an employee leaving, from lost productivity, advertising fees, HR time, and equipment. We can work with HR to estimate these costs to determine the talent impacts. If we are able to support the business case with quantifiable numbers showing the social benefits, brand benefits, and talent benefits, then this will give clarity to senior management and help drive faster implementation of products that contribute to a better society and environment.
Mr. Vader, the Death Star is under attack, Emperor Palpatine wants to know that you have purchased sufficient home and contents insurance for it. Oh, I forgot.
I hear Java Insurance gives premium discounts for energy efficiency and building safety. They are a socially responsible insurer.
I like that. I will give them a call now. Oh,
Thank you. Masaki, now it's your turn.
Sissy, I really enjoyed your video. Thank you very much. And I like the way you suggested that actuaries should be more involved in quantifying social impact, brand, and so on in the current situation where various SDG issues are on the top of many people's mind. My question is, when actuaries try to quantify social impact, brand, and so on, as in your example, the results would be rather different depending on the assumptions or methods to use, which might have a negative impact for the reputation of actuarial profession. Do you have any idea to prevent it?
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And that's probably one of the reasons why it's not quantified as much as it could be. The fact that you have all these underlying assumptions and analysis that needs to go in. So that's kind of why I've tried to develop a bit of a background and a bit of a framework in order to do this. So for example, in the brand impact, I've highlighted a few examples of ways in which we can calculate it. So I've mentioned A/B testing and Net Promoter Score. And these are actually very, very popular, well-used techniques in marketing. So I think if we have a conversation with the marketing team and have a bit of like a cross project, then I think we will be able to find ways in which we can use that tool more accurately. Similar with the talent impact, you know, there are definitely ways in which we can try and develop kind of more common assumptions. For example, you know, productivity, you know, that's quite a wide and a broad measure to use. But if we can kind of find some sort of benchmark, maybe work with human resources team, for example, who might have a bit more background information on this, then they can support us as well. So I think leveraging other teams and their expertise will help us as actuaries to kind of define the assumptions and the methodology and benchmarks for these kind of tools that we don't necessarily have used in the past. I think calculating social impacts is something that we probably can calculate quite accurately if we have the right data. And an insurance company might not have the right data and information to do this. So I think the first step is to collect that data. For example, if you have different products and you can separate out the membership and the claims, all the products that are example, you know, have telematics and are socially responsible, and split that out against the ones that don't, then we can actually do that comparison and be able to quantify that quite accurately.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just in time, perfect. Charles?
Thank you, Sissy. That's very interesting. I have a similar question in that your presentation was about converting things into a financial impact. Does, you know, a lot of the things that you're talking about are quite difficult to quantify, and not only are the risks from the actuarial perception side of things, but is there not also a challenge that we miss things that are not so easily quantifiable. So my question is, are you looking at always trying to convert things into a financial answer, or do you see that there's room for looking at other ways of assessing impact other than converting it into a number?
Yeah, I think there's quantifiable and the qualitative, like quantitative and qualitative ways in which we can describe benefits. And I think as actuaries, we kind of have the tools and analytical skills to quantify the benefits. And that's kind of why I'm suggesting we go try and do this as much as we can, because of the fact that quantifying the financials, quantifying the business case in terms of sales and profitability, that's easy to compare against one project to another. So that's why I'm suggesting that it's good to qualify the financials. I think with business cases that I actually come submit as part of my role, I do look at the financials, the sales, and the profitability, but I also do try and put in the social impacts into my business cases, which means one, sometimes I describe the benefits. For example, these products will lead to customers becoming more active, accessing mental health and physio support, etc. And that's really good for customer outcome. So that's one way of describing the benefits. But also because our company, we hold data that actually allows us to then take the second step and quantify that. I also add that to my business case in the sense that I can actually say, if we implement these product changes, then we can actually decrease mortality and morbidity by 20% or 30%, and I can actually back that up with the data. So I think yes, some things can't be quantified, and sometimes it does have to be described in other ways as well.
Thank you. Laundry, your question?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sissy. Very interesting presentation. So, in your opinion, do you think there are any interdependencies between the social brand and the talent impacts? And do you think there's any way we can bring out these interdependencies to reduce the risk of double counting or something like that?
Yeah, I think there definitely would be interdependencies. And I think the best way to overcome it is really just try and look at them in isolation first, try to calculate it and quantify it, and then think about all those links and correlations there. So, I mean, for example, social impacts where, say, if we implement free physio, free mental health sessions for our life insurance and health insurance customers, I mean, there's a great social impact because we're potentially reducing mortality and morbidity and reducing claims for customers. So that's the social impact. But at the same time, because we're making all these changes, it has the brand impact as well. So you're definitely right in the sense that there is that crossover. And I think in this type of situation, you do have to try and separate those things out. So that's why I'm suggesting when we do the brand impact, there are things that you can do, for example, customer surveys, where I mentioned we try and strip out the impact of price, because that's something that always has some sort of impact there. So if we can use our tools in the way that we can quite specifically pinpoint the impacts of very specific and isolated impacts, then we can try and break it down. So, for example, we want to calculate the increase in our sales due to a new product launching, and we want to break that down into, okay, what part is due to the price, what part is due to the specific product features that we're adding, and what part is due to just the overall kind of brand impact that it has on on the market. So yes, definitely, if we can find ways in which we can isolate out those specific elements, for example, A/B testing is pretty much such a good tool because it really does. The whole point of it is to isolate very specific components in A versus B, and then look at the differences.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you as well, Sissy, from my side. So last but not least, Yi, it's now your turn. Again, first the video and then the questions.
Oh no. Can someone tell me how the hell he got into our system?
Oh shit. Shit. He hacked us.
Hi everyone, I'm Edie and here I am based in Sydney, Australia. So just a quick video that we just saw was actually one of the scenes in James Bond video 007. And I believe you have probably seen a similar hacking thing in some of the other movies. You may think it's a little bit exaggerating, but you know what? It is something that could happen in real life. So today I'm going to talk about closing the gap in protecting personal data via privacy law and personal cyber insurance in Australia. So if you're currently living in Australia, you definitely heard about the recent news about data breach of Medibank and Optus. So Medibank has recently confirmed hackers had access to data of all their policyholders, which is around 3.9 million customers. And since COVID, we're seeing a significant increase in use of technology and a shift towards the digital economy. More people start to work from home, which increases the usage of company network remotely. And Australia started to use telehealth, which you can meet with your doctors online. And recent report says in Australia, a cybercrime was reported every 8 minutes over the past financial year, and cyber risk cost the economy $33 billion. So this reflects the increasing risk of personal data being hacked. There are two ways we can do to help improving personal data privacy. The first one is through enhancement of Australia privacy law, and the second is through personal cyber insurance. So Australia currently has Privacy Act 1988, which is the principal piece of Australian legislation protecting the handling of personal information about individuals. Significant amendments were made in 2014 and 2017 to help improve the handling of personal information by Australia. Then this also includes the introduction of notifiable data breach scheme in 2018, which requires notification to be sent to affected individuals where an entity subject to the Privacy Act experiences a data breach of personal information. And the Australian government is currently conducting a review of the Privacy Act and is aimed to be finalized end of the year. But if you look around other parts of the world, there still some gaps exist in the currency privacy law. So if we look at Europe, which is they have the GDPR regulation for the protection of personal data, they're able to issue warnings and infringements, which could be a fine of up to €20 million or 4% of the business total annual worldwide turnover. So we're calling for more laws around consumers' data and sharing. The first one is clear data security storage framework that defines minimum security measures required for business. The second is communication to consumers about how the personal information will be handled and distributed, and ask for consent when needed. Instead of issuing maximum or fixed amount of fines, penalties should be calculated based on business annual turnover. The last one is data retention law, which restricts how long the company can store customers' information for. So the second way to improve personal data privacy is through personal cyber insurance. A recent Swiss Re report predicted that the global market for personal cyber insurance could be worth $3.1 billion by 2025. Cyber insurance is a rapidly growing business around the world, especially in the US. However, majority of the cyber insurance products are for business or commercial only. Personal cyber insurance is still a new area, particularly in Australia, and very few insurers currently offers the products. There are challenges in the area which may result the situation. The first is awareness. there's a lack of adequate knowledge in the field of IT. And a lot of consumers still have the perceived risk of being a victim of a cyber attack of being small. The second is cyber insurance is unlikely to be standardized. The type of risk covered under cyber insurance varies significantly across policies. The rapid evolution of hacking capability and strategies makes it difficult for insurers. And there is limited loss history for insurers to use when settling prices for cyber insurance premiums and coverage loss limits. The challenges in personal cyber insurance. There are huge potentials and opportunities in the Australian market. So previously, it has been mostly attractive to high net worth individuals and people with public profiles. But with the development of technology, individuals who need cyber insurance is shifting towards the general population. In the US, personal cyber insurance is commonly sold as an add-on to home insurance or health insurance. But it can also be sold as a standalone product. So what are the steps insurers should take? So rather than making a claim payment, it is more important to preventing a claim from happening in the first place. And this includes educate consumers to better protect themselves for cyber threats through multi-factor authentication, having up-to-date security software, and so on. It is also important to educate personalized agents and brokers who are less familiar with cyber insurance. This includes develop relevant marketing information, for example, claim scenarios. The next one is adopt a security rating factor to determine premium. This means that an individual with more advanced cybersecurity would pay a lower premium than others. And the last one is active collaboration between government, insurers, and policyholders to build a sharing data security network. Frequent communication between government and insurers will help understand the latest trend and keep up to date with challenges in the markets. And it's also important to build up a data sharing between insurers. And this enables a much more effective, coordinated responses to external changes in the market. Sharing security mitigation approach and experience between insurers to build a knowledge bank of cyber attack and share this with policyholders. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yi. Now again, the judges, we start at the top again. So Charles, it's your turn for a question.
Thank you, Yi. Very interesting and very important, very topical. You note that rightly that personal cyber insurance is quite rare. And you mentioned a number of the challenges with that. Are there not also quite a lot of challenges with how insurers can assess whether individuals are truly responsible for the maintaining the security of their own personal space, so to speak, and how do you see the problems for the insurers as to whether individuals might be responsible for inadvertently giving away information or whatever it is to a hacker, and how can you insure against that?
Yeah, thanks, Charles. So I think in terms of the assessment, so definitely one of the key things to do is educate policyholders. So maybe before I jump on that, is I think initially before you're taking a habit like when the brokers talk to like the new customer, I think the first thing they probably do is doing kind of that assessment. So there should be like a standardized like a questionnaire about their kind of their cyber appetite or risk appetite. That's to get to know how, for example, like how do the customer will save their passwords, save their account, what kind of for example, softwares they're using to protect their personal data, and also, for example, like how many accounts they have, like online accounts they have, and also, for example, how often do they change their password. So that's probably the first step. And then after that, I think there should be like an education a component is get involved. So basically telling the customers the right thing to do. For example, like, use different password for different accounts, and, don't share your personal information to, any look at like dodgy emails, things like that. So I guess like education is definitely important, and also try to educate the customers the kind of the right behavior to do.
Thank you.
Thank you as well, Laundry.
Thank you, Martin. Very good presentation. I'll be speaking more on the individual parts because that's where the challenge really is. Technology is rapidly evolving, and I'm not sure we have so much of data to really price. So how do you think that in line with this changing technologies, the insurers can make cyber insurance pretty affordable to for individual policyholders that may want to purchase it?
Yes, I think it's a good question. So not in the personal insurance space, cyber insurance space, but in the business space, definitely affordability is the issue. So I think in the case of Medibank, I think one of the news was saying they actually didn't purchase like a business cyber insurance, and because it was too expensive. So as for individuals, affordability is definitely kind of the key consideration to have. I guess the first thing is to in your product disclosure is that you kind of try to write down the exclusions, so have a clear kind of product descriptions about what type of the events that that insurers are insured for, and also be pretty clear about what is the product is targeted at. So be specific, and this is just to kind of limit the cost to the insurance companies, so they can make the products more affordable. And I guess the other thing is to, as I said, having that security factors consider when you provide your premium. So basically for policyholders who have like a higher awareness of cybersecurity. So if they already have like firewalls in place, they're already regularly updating their password, then you probably give them like a discount on their premium. So, or even though they don't have it, but you can communicate that to them. Say if you have these things set up, then we can give you like a cheaper premium. So policyholders are more encouraged to do the right way, and then also make the products more affordable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Masake?
Yi, thanks for your presentation. And you mentioned that personal cyber insurance is a new area, and there are many challenges like low awareness, difficult to standardize, lack of past lost data, and so on. On the other hand, you think that there are huge potentials and opportunities in the Australian market. So what do you think would be the game changer of personal cyber insurance in Australia?
Good question. So as I said, the current policy law is was the Privacy Act 1988. So that's probably something that's been set up 40 years ago-ish. So it's there are some like amendments were made during the last like 40 years, but and at the moment the government is actually kind of conducting like a review, so they're collecting like responses from industries and organizations in terms of how they can enhance the privacy laws. So I feel like so the review is meant to be, or it's expected to finish around this year. So I feel like if there are actually actions that come out of that review, then there's definitely like a big focus for the insurance company, but also consumers that feel like there's a need for cyber insurance. And also like, for example, like Medibank and Optus have already been on the like the top of the page for the last few months. So I feel like for consumers themselves, or they already feel like the necessary of having cyber insurance. So I guess it's kind of a mix of, the expecting changes to the current privacy laws, but also kind of that the media should kind of start raising the people's awareness about the importance of having cyber insurance. But I think for insurance themselves, if they do want to enter into that market, then it's also important for them to kind of pass on the information to their current customers, that the importance of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So the presentation part is done, judges. I hope you can see the link to the separate meeting room in the chat now. Please click on it and take your time to select the winner and the second winner. Yeah, and while that takes place, I will stop me sharing. Let's see when it's only us left. This will always take a second or two to change the room. And now, does it work, Masaki? Yeah, great. So yeah, well done. Now you can relax. It's the judging is over. Nothing from here what you say will be taken into account. So that is surely easier than to express. And we have to we will chat a bit to fill the time until the judges come back. And for the past quarterfinals, it was it became a tradition that to ask you as participants what was actually your motivation to start an actuarial career. I mean you're pretty different in your in the stage where you are. Some have just started, others are already very very experienced. But maybe in the order of we had so far, Chiziro, why did you at least begin to become an actuary?
I love mathematics, and I thought like I could find a field which could complement my mathematics skills. So I love mathematics, then economics, and computer programming. I remember in high school, during my A-levels, we were doing computer science. So we asked to create like projects, to code the project. So I created a portrait management system. So it was like a standout project from the turn. So yeah, basically I understood that I have skills in computer science, mathematics, and economics, and I was trying to find a field that could complement those skills, and actuarial science was definitely the right field to do it. And it's also not a boring field. Like, I mean, like going to the, maybe for doctors, going to the office and just sitting in the office and stuff. I mean, there's a lot more in actuarial science, and it's constantly evolving. So yeah, it's an interesting field. Thank you.
It brings a lot together. That's right. Yeah. Penelope, what was your motivation?
So I always wanted to be a teacher, and a while ago I had my own tutoring business. Then during the pandemic restrictions, I was extremely unhappy. So I looked for something else to do to kind of make my life a bit more interesting. I decided to do an actuarial studies degree, and I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to work in this role, because I think it's something that's very well suited for me, and I think it's a great opportunity everyone should get involved in.
Yeah, Sissy, I'm not sure. Are you all about actuarial topics, or is there actually a different career you would like to start?
I like doing lots of things. So yes, I've dabbled in a lot of different hobbies. But in terms of kind of how I got to an actuarial career, I think, to be honest, I can't even remember how I heard about actuarial program in high school and then picked it in uni. So I did it in uni and actually can't even remember like how that happened. Just kind of happened. I think it is a bit of luck. People kind of stumble upon different things, try different things, and I think when you're in high school, you're never really sure. And I think over time, I kind of grew to really enjoy it and really love the actuarial profession. I think it took a bit of time, learning things, experiencing how it is in real life. I think just doing it straight book work at uni and then the exams even after university, I think that was you know, I don't think that makes you love the profession. I think it's everything outside the exams. And once you start understanding why you're doing exams and you get something out of it, that's when I started enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, understandably. I have to say I'm an actuary as well, and in Germany we have 10 exams plus education during the job, and it was at least very great to meet other colleagues beyond the own institution and learn actuarial fields you do not need in your daily work. So that was great as well. But of course, yeah, doing exams is always hard stuff, and it's better to enjoy it afterwards, I think. Yeah. Yi, how about you?
I think my answer is gonna be that one of those like classic answers, like who love math and then doesn't like, you know, physics, chemistry. But then initially I was gonna do engineering just before year 12, and then I was talking to myself, do I really want to do like physics or chemistry? And the answer was no. So I was like, all right, great. So what else can I do? But I also didn't want to do just pure math. And I was talking to my friends one day, and then she said her sister, who was actually at uni at the time, heard that her friends was doing actual science, and it's like from what she understood was for people who are good at math, and that's kind of the degree that would suit them. So my friends kind of just suggested that to me, say, yeah, maybe if you just give it a try, and if you don't like it, you can just do something else like in math or in statistics, things like that. So that's how I kind of started. And then just studied at uni, and I was like, yeah, it went all right. And then like at the time I was graduating, luckily got a job in the actuarial field. So I just kind of started from there. So far I've been enjoyed it. And yeah, at the stage of doing all these exams, so having a fun time. But yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, but how it goes is maybe a good question. I mean, Penelope, you said you already have made some steps, but what is your goal? Is it being an actuary for the rest of your life, or I mean, you took part in a future competition, talking about future projects or ideas for developing the profession further. What is your personal goal to where you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, or maybe anything where you would like to change the profession, or maybe would say it's good for now and I will do it maybe another 5 years, and then I can think of becoming a cook or something like that, something completely different afterwards. Shitzi, how about you? I mean, you're very at the beginning, I think.
I think I like football, so maybe I'm gonna do something related to football scouting, like I want to do data science, like data analysis for football teams, so that they can scout the players they want. I mean, football clubs, they buy players, so I want to do data analysis for football clubs and enter more into sports. Yeah.
So some of the guys from my old company, they ended up, so they were actuaries or actuarial students, and they ended up forming some sort of, I don't know exactly what it is because I'm not that into football, but some sort of analytics where they try and analyze and predict what's going to happen in the football matches, kind of using data science and things like that. So, you know, definitely a big field there.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
Yep. Penelope, how about you? Is actually your final goal?
I want to stay in the profession at least until I'm qualified and get some more experience, but I think I'd really like to get into providing materials for actuarial students. So helping write textbooks and do tutorials and that kind of a thing, because I think there's a lot of room for improvement there, and I don't want people in the future to suffer as much as we have.
Sissy?
Yeah, I mean, I qualified just a few years ago, and I think like now that I've qualified, it's kind of, you know, great milestone. There's so many different fields. So I come from a pricing background, and right now I work in product, but you know, I never worked in valuation or capital before. So there's different fields. I mean, there's so many different fields, actuarial fields that you can move around to. Recently, I started doing some stand-up comedy, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're gonna quit being an actuary and become a comedian." I'm like, "No, actually, being a comedian is actually harder than being an actuary." So let's just leave that as a hobby for now.
Yi, how about you?
I think at least I'll get kind of qualified first, and then maybe, you know, work for a few more years and just to see how it feels to work as like a qualified actuary. But then maybe considering doing a bit of academics as maybe it's one point of time in the future, like after I'm qualified. I feel like doing some academics, like for example, becoming like a lecturer would be quite different compared to working in the corporate, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment. So, and also my family all have a kind of that academic background. So maybe I'll give it a go one day when I'm, you know, tired of working in the corporate world. So, but yeah, it's all uncertain. Like I don't know what I'm doing in the future, to be honest.
Yeah, what I like about the profession, I think that's something where you benefit from as well already, and what you just said, it's so diverse, and you have so many options, and yeah, there are already existing examples for actuarial comedians on YouTube. I think so. It's both is possible. But it's internationally well known. I mean, that's great. Through the IAA, there's more or less global common understanding of at least a basic qualification actuaries should have. And you are more or less benefiting from it already, moving from Australia to the UK or vice versa, or from Zimbabwe now working in studying in Australia. Where maybe compared to where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are the countries you would say? Would you like to work globally, or is there any specific market where you said that is especially interesting for working in the future?
I wanna stay in Switzerland because I mean the economy in Switzerland is pretty good, and it's a good country. Then the UK, I mean, there's a lot of football in the UK, so
Yeah, maybe quick answers, Penelope. How about you?
I like the UK because there's such a big actuarial community, but also want to go back to Australia and be with my family.
Okay, yeah, understandably. Sissy?
I feel like the different countries, the kind of insurance and actuarial community is quite interlinked. So you do kind of learn from other countries. I don't think it's like too different where you work, because we all kind of communicate with each other and kind of share ideas and analysis and techniques and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I worked in Sydney for a while. Now I'm in London. I don't find it too different. I mean, thought about potentially maybe working in Singapore. I heard Dubai apparently has 0% income tax, so that's also quite appealing.
Yeah. Okay, Yi, how about you?
I'll say China because I'm actually from China, so I came to Australia to study, and then studied year 12 and then did uni here, and been working here since then. So it'll be really interesting, and because I know the market are very different. Still developing countries versus like developed countries, and the population is different, completely different. So it'll be interesting if I do have the chance to go back to my home country and have the experience.
Yeah, good luck for that. So the judges are back, and whatever they will say now and what they have decided, I hope at least, let me just share it again, that also those of you who will not enter the semi-final and maybe later the final, due to your affiliation, your link to Australia, that you will have the chance anyway to come to the ICA, because I've been there for the ICA 2018, and it's always great to meet so many colleagues at one spot. So good luck for that. And now the questions to you, judges. Is there a judge speaker who will let us know who has won and who goes second?
So I was nominated as the speaker for the judges. First of all, we wanted to say how much we enjoyed all of the presentations. Big congratulations to all of you. And I'd just like to say, with all of the talent that's coming through, the future is bright for actuaries, and we wish you all the very best going forwards, because you've all got great talent. But that has to be with any one of these things. There has to be a winner, and there has to be a runner-up, and so I'm delighted to say that we have deliberated long and hard, but we have concluded that Sissy is the winner for today. Many congratulations, Sissy. We very much enjoyed both your presentation and your answers and your vision, and we thought that that was a worthy winner. Very close behind, I have to say, in the runner-up spot, Penelope. Congratulations again. So really interesting, challenging, thought-provoking presentations from you both. Yi Jiu-Jitsu, I'm sorry we couldn't make you all winners, but we very much enjoy, and please feel encouraged to carry on in your great work. But Sissy and Penny, congratulations. We have awarded you the first and the runner-up spots.
So at least a bit of clapping. So congratulations to the two of you, and thank you very much to all four of you. It was great having you here today. Very well done. Thanks to you, judges, for joining us and taking this hard decision. And yeah, now it's over for the quarterfinals. We will have the wildcard winners announced on 31st of January. So watch out for that. And afterwards, then in February, the semifinals. And then hopefully we will meet for maybe one or two of you, but all four finalists in Sydney, Australia in May, end of May, beginning of June. Yeah, thank you. And still, I hope to see all of you then in Sydney. See you soon.